can't believe how sarcastic I'm being and how serious you'll all be.
But I don't know what I want to be doing. So I went to India.
You don't need a business mind to build a company. You don't need a business mind to be part of a business.
I would say that the number one thing that employers should look for is actually what has that person done.
Episode 74, chatting education and work futures with some of the Venture Up 2018 Incubator crew, published Wednesday 28th of March 2018 and brought to you with support from BizDojo and Collider Wellington.
My name is Kate Lee and I'm from Inglewood.
Alright, I'm Oliver Pinfold and I'm from Auckland.
My name is Lingy and I'm from the mighty Hutt Valley.
And it's me, David, from Twice, Talks with Innovators, Creatives and Enterprises. Lingy, just give us a quick summary of what the program's all about.
Sure thing. So the program I run on behalf of Creative HQ, which is Wellington's innovation hub, it's called Venture Up. Essentially what Venture Up is a 4-week accelerator course where we take anyone from 16 to 24 through the latest kind of tools, techniques that entrepreneurs and startup companies use from around the region, and we mash it together with some of the most brightest young people in the region and some from outside as well. And what they do is they learn from the best. There's 3 key themes I always go back to. It's the education part, so it's making sure that they know what these tools are that are used in everyday life for startups. It's the connection part, which is actually introducing them to some of the best CEOs and the marketers and the sales and the technical leads of these companies. So connection is really key and important. And the last part is resilience. So the resilience to be able to take a couple of knocks here and there throughout the program, but then also know that you've got support from the facilitators and the crew that will help bring you back up and hopefully be better for it. So that's exactly a little Venture Up in a nutshell, I guess.
And you don't regret selecting these two to be part of the crew for this year?
Oh, every day. They've been a pain in my ass.
Is the feeling mutual, Kate? Lingy been a bit of a pain in the ass the last 4 weeks?
I'm just going to be nice. Not at all.
No, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He poured his heart and soul into us, and we kind of poured it back into him. And like we could see, he was here later than any of us every day of the week, which was a bit outstanding because we're the ones making the business and trying to make something happen out of it. And he outlasted us every day at the office. That was pretty cool to see. But ask him about basketball because that was quite funny.
Oh no, we'll get to that a little bit later. But no. Going back to that other comment now. These two, actually every single one of the 27, they all have. First of all, everyone who is selected applies. It's a pretty competitive process. We don't take anyone. We make sure that there is an application stage. There is a phone interview stage, and they have to pass these stages to be able to get onto this course, which is essentially fully funded. So there's nothing that comes out from them that they have to pay to be on board. It's all funded by our sponsors. And so, people like WREDA and Callaghan Innovation and Victoria University letting us, run in partnership with, Young Enterprise Trust also and Ministry of Youth Development. All these organisations pour their resource and time into seeing something like this happens. So it is a competitive process, and we only do select the best. So going back to that, they are a pain in the ass sometimes, but they are the most motivated crew that I can see. And it doesn't take a lot for them to get up and start going, just to push in the right direction.
So Kate, nicely put on a pedestal there by the man Lingy. Just tell us a little bit about you've got like a venture which you've been developing within the program. Just talk to me about that a little bit.
Okay, so I kind of talked with one of your initial questions about how I'm sitting at home twiddling my thumbs at the moment trying to find a job. And you go through this disheartening process of being rejected, and you make a CV and you think you're the best thing ever and that everyone should hire you. And so our business was Propel, and it was around the problem that young people and millennials find it hard to enter the workplace due to a lack of experience. And it's that classic situation of you need experience to get a job, and you need a job to get experience. And for me personally, as a young person who has been working in a corporate environment for the last year and a half, I felt like an alien while I was there. And I had a lot of people, after we pitched our idea at Showcase, saying, I own a business, or I'm a CEO, and I am trying to get millennials in my workplace, but it's really hard to retain millennials and have them engaged. And it's quite an interesting social thing. Like, we were joking about millennials before the show, but we are very entitled, and we're very, we've got mothers who told us how amazing and talented and smart we are, and then you go into the real world and get told that you're shit, and you get rejected. So kind of in a nutshell, what our business is essentially a freelancing platform for young people, so they can actively market their skills and get short-term work experience.
I did notice you mentioned in there is this something that you've kind of left with the end of the program, or is it something you're hoping to develop further given the right circumstances, time and funds?
Yeah, the reason I said is because it's such a fast-paced 4-week program, and you end up like just building something so quickly. So what I want to do now with that idea is completely tear it to the ground and kind of rebuild it again, and go through, like, we had stages in the program of like customer validation, cold calling, like all these steps that we went through. I've learned the process nicely through doing it in the 4-week accelerator. Now I want to get that idea and kind of start from the ground again, and talk to more people and keep building on it.
Very cool. Thank you.
Absolutely agree on her with that. Absolutely. Such a fast-paced 4 weeks that I actually couldn't even use my laptop because it got too disorganized. So I kept everything in a box, so it was straight in front of me, and my notes were right there. So I do agree. It was, very fast-paced, and you want to go back and build it from the ground up and looking at it.
Ollie, just tell us about your idea that you were developing through the program and how that's been rolling.
Okay, so I went into the Venture Up program with a concept around social sport, and so giving people more access to it and being able to play more on your own time when you want to, and not having just to reach your first connection of friends, being able to reach past that connection to your, what do you call it, the second tier or the second link? I don't know, what's 7 degrees of separation. Yeah, so like a second degree of separation to like hitting more people and being able to just get a game going and filling up the numbers. So I went into the program with that, and I thought I was going to, come out with an application, and in the end of it, I went, massive expectations, and I got put into my place straight away. I got told how realistic the startup world is. I had absolutely no clue. I just graduated last year and got a job, and so when I got into the program, I was like, I'm going to give it all up, and I'm going to go down to this venture up program and make something out of this. And so I learned the real startup life immediately within the first couple of days, being you've got put in your place and you completely have to understand where you're going. So I went in and built a team around people who had a very similar passion to me around sports, and sooner or later in the first week we're customer validation, and we're building so fast, and we're getting all these separated notes, and we're pitching every week, and we're elevating pitching every lunchtime, and this concept kind of developed, and it pivoted little bits and kind of stages, but essentially I'm still on the same path and looking to continue it. And so, yeah.
How useful do you think the program has been?
For me, I have never stepped into the startup world. I didn't do Young Enterprise Scheme. This was all completely new to me. So I had really no clue, I had an expectation of what I was going into, but in reality, I had absolutely no clue. This is going to be a completely new book. And so I went in and it completely changed my outlook on nearly everything about my future and about life as well. Like, it sounds really kind of corny, but it did. Like,
did you reprogram him, Lingy?
Not at all. I'll slip you that 20 later, mate.
No, it's more like I went through high school. I went to King's College and I was there for 13 years. So I was wearing a tie from year 1 onwards. And, you know, I went through high school and I was the only one of my friends who did a gap year. All these guys were institutionalized. They're going to go from school, they're going to go to uni, they're going to put on a suit and they're going to continue their life. And I was like, God, that's not for me. That's not for me. So my housemaster made a joke that when I finished school, like, haha, Ollie needs a gap year because he's had too much learning. And I thought that would have been, a notice being like, hey, you should look at something different. And so I'm on my gap year. I'm looking at playing rugby, continuing over there. And I was like, made a decision to come back and do uni, but I'm not going to do a BCom like my brothers or finance. I decided to do graphic design and squiggle a little bit. And so I did this graphic design degree. You know, I finished it and I was like, all right, time to get a job. So I got a job my first kind of week, sitting down in a button-up t-shirt and jeans and boots every day for a week. Had me, I can't even describe it. Like, the life wasn't built for me. And so I got into the Venture Up program quite luckily. And I quit my job the next week.
Is it though that work opportunities for people in your situation, either just out of university or having taken a gap year or 5, is it that work is boring? Is it that it doesn't challenge you? Or what is it about the work opportunities that are available to you that are kind of like have created that dissonance?
I think as a whole, it's more we just get told to kind of go this one path, and I'd never looked into this kind of side of the workforce. Never looked at, like, you know, how do these people wear shorts and t-shirts to work, and, you know, they're still working a business job, and it's a startup, it's a lifestyle, and it's a different perspective.
Record reflects Lingy has got trousers on today. Okay.
It's raining outside.
It's 13 degrees. It dropped 10 degrees in a day.
Yeah. So, Kate, just give us your perspective on like going into the program versus now looking back at it. Or what did you think?
Well, I kind of went into the program because I kind of hit my quarter life crisis, I've been calling it, late last year. I said to you earlier, I'm the 5th year of my gap year, and so it's 5 years since I've left school, and I've done a whole bunch of random things in that time. Managed a call centre, and I've worked at a supermarket, been a cheetah tamer in South Africa. Like, I did all this like crazy buzzy stuff for the first couple of years that I left school, and then in late 2016, I got offered what seemed like this awesome opportunity working in a big New Zealand corporate. And my mum was so proud, and, you know, there's my kid supporting herself financially, and, you know, with an awesome LinkedIn profile, and like just all of those very classic things that are seen as success. And I was so bored. I was like drowning in Excel spreadsheets, and, you know, everyone that I was working with was 10 years older than me, and I felt like a bit of an alien, and, you know, getting all these condescending questions. And so I kind of said, okay, no, I've kind of very randomly fallen into this situation, but it's not really where I want to be, and it's not what I want to be doing, but I don't know what I want to be doing. So I went to India. Oh
my God. Let me just pull out the cliche drawer.
yeah, I know, right? And I found myself at the Taj Mahal. I didn't actually. It's very dirty at the Taj Mahal. It's not very enlightening. But I had a friend that told me about Venture Up, and she said it's awesome. You learn more than you would at uni, and you're introduced to like-minded people. Like, I'd always thought I wanted to be in the social enterprise space, or in my own startup, or, you know, wearing shorts to work, as Ollie said. So I kind of wanted to immerse myself in that community, and I think that's been the biggest win of it for me. Just being able to be here right now, sitting at Biz Dojo and you know, meeting these cool people, because I found being in this corporate environment, I felt very alone. I was like, there's no one like-minded to me. Everyone just wants to, you know, work really hard and become a CEO and get a nice car and a house in Takapuna, where there's actually people who are more socially and ethically focused and more down to earth and wanting to change the world with cool ideas.
So, Lingy, how do you reconcile that sort of challenge between dangling the carrot but then managing the expectation of startup life is hard?
Yeah, no, it is a big challenge, and I think working in the startup world, with things like accelerators, for example, or, you know, once you've finished an accelerator, you jump into incubation, is what we call it, which is basically when you get coached for the year preceding. It's a tough challenge and tough order to follow. I think what's really good about an accelerator is it exposes, in the case of VentureUp, it exposes young people to new faces and new ways of working that they might not have known beforehand. And so with that exposure, 4 weeks isn't enough to change, you know, it isn't enough to change the world, and you're not going to come up with $1 million venture at the end of 4 weeks.
I thought you were going to say it's not enough to break them.
It's well, that too. Need a little bit more time for that, but
No fair.
I'd beg to differ.
So I think if you're able to expose them to new ways of working and new environments that they hadn't been previously exposed to before, the challenge after that is on them. And I really do think that individuals are able to take on the world after being exposed and connected to people or positions where they're aspiring to be. After they've been connected and after in a program like this, they are able to do it. Whereas someone who hasn't come into this program, the door's fully closed for them. Try get an interview with or you know, a coffee with the CMO or the CFO of any company, let alone a startup company. It's impossible if you're coming from a random. But if you've already got a foot in the door, and you know, these heads of companies, these CEOs, these high-powered positions get to come in and they rely on the brand of what an accelerator is, and it's a little bit of their time, and they love giving back. And that's what I love about running an accelerator in New Zealand, because people are always willing to give back for nothing if the purpose is there, and if they know that the greater good succeeds from it. They're always willing to give up an hour of their time to come and talk to youth.
One of the things I pull out of that straight away, though, is about reputation management. You've got a bit of track record going there.
Correct, yeah. So this is the one just completed, is the 4th iteration of it. And the reason I use iteration is that we're always consistently changing the way that we do things, because the times are changing. A program that stays the same is going to eventually die out. So you have to find ways to improve and to make the program better than it was last year.
It's David here with a quick show announcement, over halfway into my chat with Kate, Ollie and Lingy, talking about their first-hand insights from the 2018 VentureUp Incubator Programme. This show captures and shares the positive dents people are striving to make on society, alongside some of their why. My mission is to support and amplify purpose-led people movements via digital media formats and platforms, including this show, and also with short-form video. Make other humans admire you even more by showing how friends and family can listen to this show via one of many listen locations, now including Spotify. Look up the show notes via your podcast app of choice and over at twicepodcast.com for all the places you can tune in. As if you needed further convincing to sign up for next year's VentureUp programme, this next segment covers Ollie, Kate and Lingy's key learns and practical first-hand advice for future applicants. Ollie, what have you learnt, and what advice would you give to other people who are thinking about joining a future accelerator program?
Honestly, I can't tell you what I learned in one sentence or in 45 minutes or even an hour, because that first week of the program we had speaker on speaker telling us, 2 or 3 hour sessions a day with people who massive influential characters in the world. What I learned is I actually learned a lot about resilience and how you can bounce back from bits and pieces. So how you can take a blow and how you can look at yourself, rebuild yourself, and come straight back. And within the first week, we did have some expectation versus reality. Second week, it was like, we're really struggling to talk to people. How do we change this? And then, third week is our pitch got torn to shreds. How do we fix that for the last week? And so every time we kind of took criticism, we had to bounce back somehow. And I think that's what I learned most about it is, coming in from school and stuff, you get patted. Whereas from this, you actually took hits and you really learn about yourself and how you can bounce back from these things and how you can kind of benefit yourself. But also, I think anyone should come and take part, because whether it be part of your mindset that you want to get in the startup world, or you want to change the world, or you do want to go into a corporate scene, I learned so much from this that something Amanda Santos taught us is how to have open-ended questions. And my conversations with people have been better from it. She taught me how to talk in an interview. I've actually applied it to everyday conversation, how I can make someone kind of talk to me and kind of give me feedback from just a general conversation without them even knowing it.
Getting the best out of yourself and others. Yeah. How about you, Kate? Learns and advice.
Okay, probably the biggest learn is being able to articulate myself in a very crisp, clear, 90-second elevator pitch sort of way. Like, I remember on the first day, Lingy was telling us about we're going to be pitching in front of all these people. And at first I was a bit skeptical. I was like, when in the real world do you actually have to pitch in front of all of these, 200 people? What's the point? But then kind of as we went through and did like practice pitches, talking in front of people, I realized that it wasn't so much about talking in front of an audience. It was about being able to articulate your idea or what you want to communicate in a very simple way. And I think I had never really realized that before. And I kind of had this mentality of like, I've got an awesome idea or something awesome to talk about, but can I just have 2 hours of your time and draw you a diagram?
Only 2 hours? Bargain.
Yeah, and it's like I've realised it more and more, like as I'm going into job interviews this week, if I can't articulate in 30 seconds why I should be getting the job or why they should be giving me an opportunity, then really should they? My advice would be not to go into the program with a blank slate thinking that you don't know anything, because as soon as you have an ego in a program like this, you're going to quickly learn that you don't know what you think you know. Like I came into the program, 4 or 5 years older than a lot of people, and very pretentiously like I am 22 and these people are 18, like so pretentious. And then within the first couple of days I was like, shit, these 17-year-olds are so much smarter than me and they know so much more. So I think if you open yourself up and be really, really vulnerable and say like, look, I've got a lot to learn, and it is a very vulnerable process learning. Like it's constantly up and down of, I feel awesome, I've learned something. I don't know anything, I feel shit. So be prepared for that, but know that it's okay, because if you feel shit, it means you're learning something.
What are the downsides of spending the last 4 weeks in the program?
The tricky one. It's been challenging for me because I've had to at the same time be focused on finding a new house, finding a new job, rebuilding my life again after traveling, and not having a whole lot of money in the bank, but at the same time it's been really valuable. Like it's completely changed my path and my direction that I want to go on now. Like when I first got into the country, I started going on some job interviews, and now in hindsight I look at them, I'm like, thank goodness I did not go for that job, because that was not me. And now I know what I want to do.
Can I paraphrase you and say that Venture Up 18's like a beautiful ambush? Would that be about right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about you, Ollie? Disadvantages of the program for you?
It's quite hard to give it a disadvantage because it's done so much for me. But the only thing is, I've come down from Auckland. I think I've overstayed my welcome with my auntie.
Let's look at a different way, Lingy. For you, highlights and lowlights of the last 4 weeks.
One is the participants coming out with a new motivation, new fuel, new life direction is a highlight. Another highlight would be just the speakers that we were able to secure coming into the program and contributing. The mentors, they are all incredible and incredibly busy people. The third I would say is the crew. I can't go past my own crew, and I'm fortunate enough just to be the head of, the face of, but I am far from it. And so that would be another highlight, to be able to work on a program like this with an incredible cast. The lowlights for me is, I actually feel in any type of accelerator process, you give away a little bit of your life. And so a low light for me is actually putting life on hold for 4 weeks. I've always said from the start I'm a sporty person. That has had to go on hold for this program, which takes time and energy out of your life. And so that has suffered for me, but I'm in the process of trying to claw that back right now.
Talking about the hoops, but we'll get into that in a second, because there's two more like quite serious things I just wanted to try and tie into the conversation. Futures of work and futures of education. Any thoughts?
Well, from having worked a adult job in inverted commas, I think all of the advice that we've been given and all of the little nuggets of wisdom we've had throughout the course, to me, really ring true to what the real world is like. Like, I remember listening to Terry, the CE of Young Enterprise, and she was talking about her time in the IT industry and, you know, all the kind of backstabbing of that. And I was like, I've been backstabbed in the IT industry. It rang very true. Everything Amanda Santos said about sales, it all just kind of clicked, and it seemed really tangible, and this makes sense, and this will actually help me and help other young people in the workforce. But I find a lot of the things that they teach at uni or traditional school, it's like kind of that classic algebra, like, where am I going to use this? Like, where am I going to use X and Y in my career? And I think Lingy talked earlier about how they're constantly changing and improving on this program.
The ability to change like every year and update is a massive point. You know, like Lingy's talking about how last year was so different to this year, and you know how we're moving forward, and then how we critique and we go next year. I think this is the only course that can really be so flexible and so fast at changing. You don't need a business mind to build a company. You don't need a business mind to be part of a business.
So it sounds like it's a little bit like education sells a promise, which is your entry ticket into getting a better job. And the stats sort of bear it out, that if you want to have a traditional job, or even a non-traditional job, that a degree can help. But what I think you're saying is that accelerators kind of are really relevant,
yeah,
and they kind of apply relevance really quickly, and they're also really up to date. Yeah,
exactly what you say.
Lingy, your perspectives on futures of...
I really do believe there's a great talk by a guy named Sir Ken Robinson it's on TED Talks, and he talks about schools killing creativity. And what he says is that we're going through a process, if not in the last decade to the last 5 decades, of education inflation. And I believe that is so true. The value of a degree currently is not the same value that a good degree had 20 years ago. I think the future of work is one where employers actually get to see the stuff that you have done and achieved and created and failed and lessons learnt and actual traction of what you've actually been able to do. Not saying that a degree is worthless. I would say that the number one thing that employers should look for is actually what has that person done and what have they been able to achieve and what unique perspective or view they can bring. And that's why I love something like Venture Up, because it stretches your minds in different ways that you thought that weren't possible.
Kia ora, it's David here, rounding out my chat with Kate, Ollie and Lingy from the Venture Up 2018 Incubator Programme, recorded in the pod cave here at Biz Dojo Cohort, Wellington, which is why you'll occasionally hear the coffee grinder going and Karina's joyful laughter. After this short outro, the conversation continues for another 10 minutes or so, with stuff that didn't quite make the main episode cut. I've just been reflecting on this conversation, and I came away encouraged by the rigour applied in the active development of the Venture Up programme, and also its relevance in preparing young people for current and future prospects in a fast-shifting future of work. One common thread through all the 4 years of the programme is the creation of new network links between cohort, mentors and potential employers, which is where the value lies, in my humble opinion, alongside the education and resilience knowledge transfer. Lingy and the rest of his crew are most definitely making positive dents on society by equipping each cohort with the expertise and tools to negotiate and succeed in the future of work. This is said with some envy. I launched this show back in 2015 as a 6-episode pilot. That worked out well. As a showcase for organisations and businesses to see, or should that be here, how audio can integrate with less intimate media formats. For the last year, I've been grateful for support from 2 Wellington organisations, and I encourage you to check them out. Biz Dojo are creating and facilitating communities of talented, interesting and clever humans pursuing their passions through a network of co-work spaces across New Zealand. They've just opened the doors to their newest location at Market Lane in Wellington, New Zealand, project led by the kindly and thoughtful gent who is Paul Swifty Swift. Their goal is to facilitate communities of people to collaborate in an inclusive, friendly and respectful environment. With flexible options for small and large teams and contract-free plans to suit any business. Go develop and deliver your purpose over at bizdojo.com. I'm also grateful to the Collider Wellington team and programme. Their goal is to facilitate connections with thought leaders, emerging entrepreneurs and inspirational experts. Access world-class intelligence, hang with some of the smartest people on earth and learn something new via a monthly programme of largely free events here in the greatest little city on earth, Wellington, New Zealand. For all the details, go to colliderwellington.com, which is spelt colliderwgtn.com. You can find comprehensive show notes and links in your podcast app of choice and via the many listening options linked over at twicepodcast.com, which is where you can also suggest future guests and offer episode comments. You can also reach us on Twitter and Instagram at twicepodcast. The next guest in your ears is Pat Shepherd, founder of 1% Collective, for people who give a percentage. His colleague, Ruben Harcourt, was a guest almost exactly a year ago, which makes for an easy episode match, which is linked right in the show notes. Thanks again to Biz Dojo and Collider Wellington, and thank you for lending us your ears. It means a lot. If you have a moment, please rate the show on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. It'll help others discover more than 70 more published Positive Dents on Society conversations. See you in 2 weeks. Cheers. Can I ask you, Ollie and Kate, was that just the smoothest advert for the Venture Up programme I've ever heard? Or was that... I'm not sure if that just went straight through me.
Do you reckon you rehearsed in the mirror this morning?
Possibly.
I feel sorry for them.
Would you like to apply for Venture Up 2019?
Oh my God, I feel like I'm being drawn towards it.
Adverts are now open, 2019.
It's been super fun hanging out with you. We ask all our guests a few rollout questions. The first of which, Kate, I'll ask you first, which is if there's an analogue object, item or thing that at the moment you can't live without, what would it be?
My jandals.
They're great jandals, by the way.
They're great jandals. They were $4 from the warehouse.
I thought they were Havianas. Hajavanas. Everyone's got those Hajavana ones.
Easy for you to say.
I don't care for spending $30 on jandals.
How about you, Ollie? Object or item that's analog that you can't live without?
This is going to sound bizarre, but I got given a new mountain bike for Christmas, like a big gift, and parents really thought about it. But I ride to and from the program every day, and I ride every day on the weekend, and up Mount Macra Peak down here, which is fantastic. But it gives me a stimulant to start my day and finish my day on a high.
Beautiful. And Lingy, analog object, item or thing you can't live without?
I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to say the pen I currently have. And it's a weird one, and it's the way that I wanted it to be. Hopefully memorable. I've got a pen, one of those 4-clicker pens, like each, and it's like a retro thing, and I love it because you just blue, red, black, and green.
Classy teacher, eh?
I love this pen. I don't know why, but when I go down to write notes, I always look for this one pen, and the coolest thing about it is it's got this little eraser at the top. Take a photo of a lady, turn it around, and you just rub out your pen. How cool is that? Call me old school, but I love a good pen, and I always look for that pen when I'm writing notes. It's a weird thing.
All right, final couple of questions. Ollie, what do you think that your parents think you've been doing the last 4 weeks?
If I've got 30 seconds, I'll try to explain it. My dad is an accountant and has been an accountant for 43 years. My mum has been an accountant for about 40 years. And so when I told them I'm trying to do a startup and I'm going to an accelerator, they kind of, okay, what's that? Trying to, and then, even doing a degree, the same thing, I had to explain it to them. But they had absolutely no clue until I started ringing up and being like, hey, look, I've got this mentor called Finn, and he started Mevo. And they're like, what's Mevo? And I was like, it's a startup, it's fantastic, it's amazing. And they're kind of like, okay, cool. And they're hearing about all these businesses they haven't heard of, but I'm kind of like getting blown out of the mind because I know them. And so it's very hard to tell mum and dad, being like, this is, because it's so different to them. It's so different to them. So yeah, they kind of just, they have to get an update with me every day, otherwise they have no clue what I'm doing.
How about you, Kate? What do you think your parents think you do?
Well, initially they had no idea, and then I started putting all these customer validation quizzes on Facebook. I had a bit of fun with it, where I would, we were seeing, what services people would be interested in having from someone in training. So I put all these little surveys on Facebook, which was, of like generic kind of quirky stock image of someone getting their hair cut, and then a picture of someone going no way, and it's the question was, would you have a trainee hairdresser do a haircut for $20? Hell yeah, no way. Just like all these little quirky quizzes that I put on Facebook. And my mum just called me up and she like, what are you doing? I thought this was a serious program you were doing. Or, what is this? I don't understand. What's a meme? All of these questions.
Lingy, what do you think your family and relatives think that you do during the day?
Oh, I just say business. I keep it business, commerce. The more generic, the better it is. I think my parents, they come from a different type of background. They're first generation Vietnamese, Chinese, so they've been here for the last 40 years in New Zealand, resettled in here in their early 20s, not knowing a lick of English. So they've done well in the last 40 years to bring my brothers and my sister through to all working now, all having kids, the older brothers having kids. So they would have no clue what I do, and I just don't try and explain it to them. I just say that I do business, and they're like, as long as there's money coming in and you can pay your expenses, you're good.
If people want to reach out to you online, do you have any social handles that people can find you publicly, Ollie?
I'm on Instagram at Penny03, and I'm on Facebook at Ollie Pinfold. You can also actually find me through what I'm working on at the moment. It's called Team Up NZ, and so you can reach out through there as well. That's just my program that I worked on Venture Up and continuing to work on afterwards.
Great, we'll stick those links in the show notes for you. Kate?
For me, it's just classic LinkedIn, KATE space LEE, and I'm also on Instagram as Stray Cat Kate.
No regrets about that username.
I was 14.
Validated.
Oh, great. Lingy.
Nice. You pick a channel and I will be on it.
Hey, this is David at Twice Talks with Innovators, Creatives and Enterprises. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Twice Podcast, and you can find me on Twitter occasionally at David_Binstead. It just leaves me to thank very gratefully my guests today, Ollie, Kate and Lingy, for coming and hang with me.
Thank you very much, David, for having us. Love Twice Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, David.
Hi, Mum.
Is he normally this polite? I was waiting for him to go, your parents don't know your friends don't know teachers don't know he goes,
Nice. It's got a PG filter on. I think he's actually a generally polite guy, actually. No,
Wow.
I reckon
Nice.
that's just Ollie.
Lingy perfected the art of asking speakers to get a photo, and I think he said the same thing every time we had a speaker. He's like,
yeah.
And so we usually do this thing where, we take a photo for your Instagram feed or your social media channels, and you can get a selfie or you can get a group photo, Aaron can take it. And every time we had a speaker, it was the exact same, probably 15 seconds blurb about getting a photo.
Yeah, and when he's about to say it, because,
Yeah.
the
comes to the room
the
and then-
words have kind of quietened down, and Lingy goes, so we do this thing. Like clockwork, every speaker.
I call that consistency.